Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Weekly episode 26, aka a Dual Life Perspective 2021 Part 1. And we're doing it all recorded this time. It's going to be just me talking to you about the year, my real and my virtual lives. Now, normally I talk about the real first, but I think I want to do the virtual first, just to kind of get through the game part, because I've got a list of what I've played so far this year, 15 games, and I think it would just be, in terms of filming, a better flow to just cut through the game part. Then we'll have a cat intermission, and we'll jump into the real part, and depending on how long it all takes, we may throw something else in at the end. So let's just dive into January 2021. I played 4 games, and all of them were lovely. I have no complaints about any of them. So let's start with Wide Ocean Big Jacket. That was a really cool adventure game where you play as a couple that take their niece and her best boyfriend on a camping trip, and it's got a really simplistic art style but a really nice soundtrack, and this game is exquisitely written. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's not very long. I probably finished in about 3 hours maybe, but lovely game. That was just a great start to the year, and I have no complaints other than it would have been nice for it to be a bit longer because I was really enjoying it, but I think that it told the story it needed to. Donut County is the next game that I played, and it's a bit of a... how would I define Donut County? It's a whole simulation game. I guess a sim will work, but you control a little hole, and you move it around, and you have to make things fall through it. And then as you continue to do that, bigger things are able to be swallowed up, and that's just how it goes. And then once you clear the level, you get some story explaining why this all happened, why all of the characters are underground, and how they resolve to move past that and to come back together as a small community. Very charming game. Another one that is just superbly written. It's got a really great art style. It's simplistic like Wide Ocean Big Jacket, but I think that Donut County does a little bit more with the character models to have them emote without facial expressions, at least with the human characters. It's really well done. Have a Garbage Day is one of the most quotable things that I feel has come out of the indie scene in a little while. It's just a really good game. Again, it's one of those that I wish it was a little bit longer. I also think that the final boss situation needed perhaps a little bit more lead-in to explain what to do. But beyond that, I have no complaints about Donut County. I'm really glad that I got to play that. A Short Hike. You know, if it wasn't for one other game, I would be saying that is the game of this first half of the year. A Short Hike is... It's a platforming adventure game with no major conflict. You're just this young girl bird who is with your aunt, who's a ranger at like this national park, and you get to explore the park and do all this cool stuff, and it's got some Zelda-like progression bits, like you collect feathers so you can fly longer, but it's such a chill game. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved every second of that game. Great soundtrack, great visual design. The pixel look is one of the best I've seen in a 3D interpretation of that pixelated look. A lot of fun objectives. About the right size. If it was too much longer, I think that it might lose a bit of its charm, but it's just like about the perfect length. Just the only real thing that I wish that it did a little bit better was its menu and inventory systems, and maybe like a better map. I don't even remember if there is a map, but that's it. I mean, otherwise it's just a delight to explore that world and to engage with those characters, and again, wonderful writing. I really enjoyed A Short Hike quite a bit. Streets of Rage 4 is a marvelous game. That's probably third place out of everything that I've played this year so far. It's such a good sequel. It's not by Sega. It's by Guard Crush Games and Lizard Cube working together, along with .emu, who are becoming like the titans of the retro revival scene, just like in the last 2-3 years. It's really quite remarkable. But Streets of Rage 4 is superb. Like, beat 'em up wise, it's so good. I played as Cherry, and really enjoyed playing as her a bunch. Just loved that experience. It was so much fun. I think it would be more fun with another player, like most beat 'em ups are. But and there's a couple points where I wish things were a little bit better, which I did talk about in my video opinion of it several months ago in LVLS Weekly, so I'll just link that here in case you want to check that out for more explicit explanation, because that was fresh then. It's 5 months on now, and I'm like, what was my issue? I don't remember. Very good game though. It's got incredible sprite work. I don't even know if I call it sprite work. It's just incredible graphics. Looks great. I felt the gameplay was fair. Soundtrack's solid. It's good. It's a great game. It's my probably third favorite beat 'em up of all time, behind Ninja Warriors and River City Girls. Moving into February, I have 5 games here, including my current game of the year for last year, in retrospect, Spiritfarer. Just even saying Spiritfarer gives me like this emotional feeling, because it was such an emotionally powerful, significant game. I loved every second of Spiritfarer, even though the end felt like it was going through the motions a bit at times. It didn't matter. It was so well done and so well created and so thoughtful and so beautiful. It really impacted me on such a significant level that I get that feeling when I talk about it. You play as Stella, a young woman who has been made the new Spiritfarer for the afterlife, and she runs into a bunch of various characters that she knew in her living life, and through that process helps them find peace and herself peace as well, even though she's a silent protagonist. There's DLC coming that gets more into Stella herself, but I feel like the core game did a fantastic job of creating this really captivating world of spirits, and just how the whole premise of it being like an ocean with all of these different groups of people spread throughout. Gorgeous animation, gorgeous visuals. Max LL soundtrack is astoundingly beautiful. Fun mini games to try to break up the pace a little bit. Lots of different types of things to do to create stuff. A lot of crafting. It's just an emotional game. Like, I cried so many times in that game, and just like some of the best writing. And I've been saying that a lot. Like, there's been a lot of indie games I played early this year that had superb writing, but Spiritfarer has easily some of the most gut-punching, heartwarming writing I've ever experienced. It's just such an incredible game. If you haven't played it yet, highly recommend it. I'm patiently, or impatiently, would probably be more like it, waiting for I Am 8-Bit to announce what the collector's edition is going to be, because I want it. Because that's how much that game just drilled into my heart and left itself there. It's going to be in my top 25. I haven't placed it yet. I think it's going to be like 16. That's how much I liked it. It's like it's just right on the cusp of the top 15. So yeah, that's the game of the first half of the year, without question. The others in February were much shorter experiences. I played SNK vs. Capcom Match of the Millennium through the Neo Geo Pocket series that SNK's been doing, and that is the best of those fighting games. I played through as Leona on Novice and had a lot of fun, and then I went through and played it a lot more with a few other characters. It's a great game. It's a great fighting game. Really, like, SNK figured out how to do a portable fighting game with limited graphic capabilities, and they just nailed it with like all of these. But SNK vs. Capcom is the best. The biggest downside to the original release of this game is the unlock system. There's quite a few characters you can unlock, but it's annoying having to do it because it's random. But they did announce with the Pocket Color selection that they're going to patch that, and they're going to make it easier to unlock characters, which, thank you. I also learned that all of the individual releases can transfer the save data over to that. So I have that coming from Limited Run. I didn't get the fancy edition. I wanted to, but I just don't have the money. So I just got the game. It costs the same to buy it digitally, so like, why not? So I'm excited to get into all of those games a bit more, hopefully later this year. That's the only Neo Geo Pocket game I played so far this year, but there's a bunch more coming that I want to play. Capcom Arcade Stadium is solid, and I played through 3 different games when it first came out. Dynasty Wars, Carrier Airwing, and Super Street Fighter 2 X Grandmaster Challenge. Because I played it in the Japanese version. So let's go ahead and just rapid fire through those, because I don't have a ton to say. Dynasty Wars is better than its sequel, Warriors of Fate. It's a much more enjoyable beat 'em up. I like the further out perspective. I like that you're on a horse. It does more unique things with its gameplay. I felt that Warriors of Fate was one of the worst games I played 2 years ago when Beat 'em Up Bundle came out. This is not that. It's far better. And it's probably not the best beat 'em up on Arcade Stadium, because it's got some severe competition on that front, but it is, I would say, in the upper tier. Carrier Airwing, that was fun. It's the sequel to UN Squadron without the Area 88 license in the way. And it is a blast to play. I like that series of games a lot. And I was able to get through it, so that was also a lot of fun. Great horizontal shooter, a lot of fun to play, lots of blowing up stuff, like any good shooter. And it controls really well, and I felt it was very fair, and that's just good. So I need to probably do a ranked of shoot 'em ups at some point, because it's a genre that I like, but I'm nowhere near an expert. But I've been enjoying getting into the genre a lot with all these compilations and mini consoles, and I need to play through some more of the ones on the TurboGrafx like fully, and then write a ranked on those, because I think that would be fun. And then Super Street Fighter 2 X, that's the Japanese version of Turbo. So here it was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, in Japan it was Super Street Fighter 2 X. I played the Japanese version because it's tuned differently. The American one is tuned to be more challenging AI-wise, and X is not. So I was actually able to get through it without getting annoyed. I played through it as Ryu. Wonderful game. I love this. I love Street Fighter overall. Alpha 3 is my favorite of the series, but I do have a soft spot for 2 because that's my introduction. And I think that out of all of those, that Super Turbo 2 is probably the best of the original Street Fighter 2 run. It's in my top 111, so I like it quite a bit. I didn't get through anything in March and April. I was playing Dragon Quest XI through those 2 months, but I haven't finished it yet. And I took a break from it. I need to get back into it. And I was also playing a couple other things that I didn't finish, but that's at the end of the year. So we'll talk about the games that I didn't get through at a much later date. So, in May, I got through 4 games. Psycho Dream, which is a Nihon Telenet game that came out on the Switch Online app. I played through that. It's fine. It's a beautiful looking game, but it doesn't control super great. It's very repetitive, and the combat's not super engaging. But it was interesting to play through. I enjoyed it, regardless of the nitpicks. But I wouldn't recommend it as like a top tier game or anything like that. Just go into it expecting like a B to C tier level action type of game, and you'll probably get some enjoyment out of the visuals and the music and the mood. It's got a really nice mood. Lost Words Beyond the Page. I've talked about this because I felt I had to. And then I continued to talk about it during E3 because I kept seeing games taking the exact same gameplay ideas and doing it better. As I said, here's the video that I talk about it specifically. I don't want to pick on it because it's a good game, but I feel like it's my low point of the year so far. And probably because I had grander expectations, and that's the problem with expectations, is that they set you up for disappointment. And that's basically what happened with Lost Words. I think that the part where you're in the journal is well done. It's when you're Robin and exploring the fantasy world that I feel that it is less engaging. It's clunkier. It's more glitchy. It pulled me out of the experience. There's weird things that happen that distract from enjoying that section of the game, at least for me personally. And I think that part just needed more work, and I wish it had it, but at this point in time, that's my low point in terms of the virtual, is that. Fighting Layer EX Another Dash. I played the free version just to test it out. I think it's a perfectly fine and fun fighting game that is not optimized as well as it could be for the Switch at this point. It's not very attractive to look at, and the character designs suffer for it, especially since the CPU kept getting the shiny metal costumes that look terrible on the Switch. So I hope that Arika continues to polish up the visuals on that, because I think that there is something really engaging there in terms of the mechanics and how it feels, and I like the character designs. It just doesn't look all that great, and it doesn't run smoothly, and just needs some optimization to make it better. So check out the free version and see if it's something that really gels with you or not. And I got through the Arcade Ghosts and Goblins. What an accomplishment that is. And I can't tell you that I did it fair, because I totally did not do it fair. I used the invincibility code that came with Arcade Stadium a couple months ago, and I cheated my way through it, but I got through it. I saw the ending. It was wonderful to experience Ghosts and Goblins, the full experience, at least. Not the true experience. The true experience is masochism, but just felt good to get that, just to get through that, and to just experience the game and enjoy it for the mechanics more so than the punishing difficulty. And I'll probably do that with Ghouls and Ghosts too. Just haven't got around to it yet. June had 2. It's not quite the end of June, but I'm in the middle of playing Metroid on the Famicom Disk System right now. I don't foresee myself getting through that at the end of this month, so I'm just going to say I did 2, which is Wonder Boy The Dragon's Trap Remake, which is another .emu game with Lizard Cube. That is the definitive way to play that game. It's superlative, honestly. I did not enjoy playing it in its original format at all, but the new visual and audio upgrades just made that game so much more fun for me. I hate that. I kind of hate that because I like old school games, like that period of time and how they look, but for whatever reason, I don't like the way the Wonder Boy looks. So I'm so happy that I got to play through it. It's a great game, especially with the overhauled visuals and the really good soundtrack, and it feels like it controls better because dissonance of how it works, because it plays the same, more or less, but the translation's better as well, and other than a point or two where I just got lost and I had to look up what to do, it's a little bit clearer on the structure, so I enjoyed it a lot. I am very pleased with that. I don't know if I want to track down a physical of it, but I can say at least that I enjoyed it very much. And then I played through the first quest of the original Legend of Zelda again, and I had so much fun. There's a reason why that is my second favorite Zelda game, and it's because I just really love the way that game operates. I think that it's fairly fair in terms of how Link interacts with the world, like the fact that he has like a arc to his swing so he can attack from two sides is a big difference between like Newtopia, where you just stab forward, and I have issues with that. So with it just feels like Nintendo got it right. Like Flink, you got a little bit of coverage through all this range, and then his tool set is great. And with the rewind and the save states, I didn't use the save state option all that much. I used rewind a bit to like minimize bomb frustrations and a couple of deaths. But I just love that game so much. I was having so much fun just wandering around and from going through my memory of where's this, and I did do a couple check-ins with my NES Atlas hanging out right there, the game Atlas, to find a heart container that I didn't even know was there, which was rad. I've had a heart container I never found before, so this is like the first time I think in the entire time I played Zelda 1 that I actually had all the hearts when I finished it. I didn't get the red ring. That was the only thing I didn't pick up, was I didn't have the red ring. When I was going through level 9, that was like the one thing I didn't go track down. So I ended up in Ganon's lair on accident, because it's really easy to get lost in that final dungeon. So that's the first time I've beaten it with the blue ring, and you could tell that that's a harder way to do it, because running into Ganon, I was like losing 4 hearts, and I was like, sheesh. Don't even want to know what it's like without the blue ring. So those are all the games that I played up to the end of June, and they mostly were great. There was just a couple in May that were a little bit less so. Nothing that was absolutely horrid though, which is nice. I usually don't go through horrid games other than the infatuation of how bad they are. I usually stop. And when I say bad games, I mean bad for me in terms of what I get out of it. Not necessarily that they're terrible, like abominations that shouldn't have been made. I think that all games have some merit. So that's just my opinion on that. So we're going to take a cat intermission, and then we will come back and we will talk about the real part of 2021. So see you in a few. Welcome back. Big thing about the first half of 2021 is just better understanding of myself, better understanding about what makes me tick. I accepted that I have anxiety. That was big. I've always had it, it's just I've never acknowledged it, but now I do. There's a ball, feels like right here, that I can feel that elevate and decrease throughout the day. That's where my anxiety lives, and I'm learning how to transform that energy into empowerment. Hi, bud. You want to be part of the show today? I also understood that I am an empath. And the last couple months have really just kind of highlighted that for me. And through Reiki, through meditation, through events going on with friends, I've learned that I can overcommit energy and just absolutely exhaust myself because I'm taking on too much of what other people are going through. And that was an important lesson to learn. And I'm going to continue trying to better understand that, so that way I can be supportive for my friends and family at a level that makes sense for me, so I don't overdo it and overload myself. This could be a really engaging video segment, depending on what he does. You don't get on that show very often. Okay, that's probably for the best. So that's something that I learned. My Reiki practice has gotten stronger. My meditation has gotten stronger. My ability to self-care has gotten better. So on that front, on the emotional and mental health front, I'm doing much better. I'm getting much more understanding about myself and just processing a lot of things. I did lose a cousin this past week, so that is probably the biggest loss I personally experienced. Still trying to process that. Been doing some work on that actually today before I started the process of working on this video. It's unfortunate. It was not a great situation. How he passed away. It was a car accident caused by him having a seizure. So completely out of his hands. And it's just very sad watching my family trying to figure out how to move forward. So, yeah. I'm sure that cats have felt a little bit of that sadness as well. I've got all of Nintendo's titles for Book 1. I've started that process. Published first in Frequent Fantasy. That's really rad. And my art book Evolve, the proof is on its way. Yay! So I can check that out hopefully by next week, and that should be up in July. That'll be 4 books that I published in 1 year, because My Moments was published in August of last year. So that is just a sensational feat to get 4 different books published in 12 months. I'm just beside myself, and it's almost been like a perfect 3-month cycle for them all. Evolve would have probably been out by now if I didn't want to look at the proof first. I wanted to actually see what all the art looked like on the inside at this particular tier. But that should be all set in like a week to 2 weeks. So that's just really exciting. And then publishing this behemoth book was such an accomplishment. I've talked about it a couple times already on LVLS Weekly, so I won't get into that again. But just to acknowledge and celebrate this, because I don't think I've done that enough for myself personally. This truly is like such an important milestone for me on so many levels. Work has been going fine. We are starting the transition back to the office. I'm still adjusting to that, but generally speaking, it's going fine. There's some burnout, which I think is to be expected after 16 months of being at home all the time. I'm trying to work through that. I'm actually getting out and doing social things, which is really nice. I've been going to yoga in the park. I've been going to what's called moon ceremonies, which is basically Reiki/meditation oriented group healing sessions, which has been really helpful. Starting to hang out with friends and watching Marvel stuff. That's been great. I do have to say that the Marvel TV shows have all been good to best they've ever done. WandaVision was incredible. I love that show. I finally got a Scarlet Witch figure coming. She's my favorite MCU character. I haven't really talked about that much on LVLS Weekly, but that show was excellent. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier was okay. I would say it was good. I think it had a lot of potential that it squandered, especially in terms of how it handled Carly's character, especially. I think that she could have been a much more interesting character, and they could have done more with Sharon and her turn. I'm not going to say any more than that. And Loki so far is proving to be really good, so I'm really excited about that. And now, starting this month, because it's now July when I'm recording this, Black Widow's coming out in a week or two, so like the movies are picking back up. So like in terms of stuff I get engaged with on a film TV level, Marvel's doing very well. Related to this, I got into importing games from Japan, which is so rad. I've gotten so many of these, but I also have picked up a few like really cool curios, like the Ogre Saturn games. These guys are Arcadia, GameCube from Japan, Terranigma and Soul Blazer from Japan, Mischief Makers from Japan. There's other stuff I want to pick up that's not just Famicom stuff for the book, but that I'm just kind of sitting on for a bit. What else have we done? Art. I've done some really great art. There's been some really, really powerful art that I've done. You'll get to see some of it in Evolve when that comes out. And on my art blog, which I don't talk about my art blog enough, so here's the link to that. I do post stuff there with some regularity. I'm trying to get better at it. Like I said, 16 months of this work from home, stay at home as much as possible situation has been difficult on a creative front, especially with the art piece, but I've been doing some of the best art I've done. In fact, this last week I did 2 phenomenal sketches that I am so thrilled about that I did post on my art blog. So it's the most recent thing as of the recording of this video. If you watch this a couple months from now, it won't be. But I'm also getting ready to start Isolate again, which is my visual novel. I'm very excited about that, and the art that I was just talking about is specifically for that. So, just feeling really good about it. What else has been happening? Getting outside, I do have to say, has been wonderful. I am an introvert, extrovert, like right in the middle, but the last 16 months have definitely pushed me into that introvert side really hard, but I'm trying to get back towards that 50-50. And just going outside and doing walks and all that has been really good, and I need to do that more. It's hard for me to remember that I like doing that sometimes. I get so caught up in doing projects and doing stuff in the house that I just don't think about it. But I need to work on that and get better at it. It's really hot right now. I suppose that's a very real feeling. But I think overall that kind of encompasses it. I do know that Levels Plus in terms of written content has not been as productive. That's another side effect of COVID and being at home all the time, is that my willingness to write has not been as high, and I do apologize for that. I'm trying to work on it slowly but surely. I've been working on smaller pieces. I did a ranked of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was kind of fun to write. So I'm trying to get back into it. I do have the Astro City Mini that I want to do one of those types of ranked articles for, going through all of those games. So I think that'll be something I do in July. for sure, as well as I want to get through some shoot 'em ups for the TurboGrafx so I can actually do a shoot 'em up ranked article. I mentioned that in the first half, and I really like that idea. I think doing genre ranked articles will be fun, and I think I'm going to start with shoot 'em ups because it's a genre that I've really kind of gotten into the last 2 years or so. So I think that'll be fun, and then at the end of this video, there's an N64 top 10, or top 11. I'm doing 11s, I forgot. And I'm going to probably do that for all of the systems as best as I can moving forward. And so, since I'm almost done with the collection piece, all that's left is the Switch. For now, anyway. We'll probably do that yearly as I do updates and stuff like that. But those have been a lot of fun, but they're running out, so I need to come up with something new for supplemental material for news and opinions and stuff like that for these videos. So that is basically the reel for me. It's just been a lot of growth, a lot of exploration, a lot of healing, and a lot of stepping into my true self. And I'm very excited about where the second half is going to take me. So, cat intermission time. Thank you for tuning into the Dual Life Perspective half of this video. And right after this, we will jump right into N64's best games. Welcome back. The Nintendo 64 has turned 25 years old this last week, and there's too many anniversaries I want to talk about. So I wrote about Sonic. I did a ranked article on the Sonic series over the weekend, and we're going to throw the N64 into the last piece of this video and talk about the 11 best games, in my opinion, for it. And you can kind of see the order here, but just pretend that you can't see these. I love the N64. It was my second console after the NES, and it just blew my mind. I'm wearing my Mario 64 shirt today. And unsurprisingly, Mario 64 is in this list. I got it in 1996 for Christmas. I got Super Mario 64 and Star Wars Shadows of the Empire with it. And then shortly after that, I got Mario Kart 64 and Turok Dinosaur Hunter. And then the drought hit until about late 97 when GoldenEye showed up. And then it really started coming into its own in 98 when we got Zelda Ocarina of Time, and we got Body Harvest, and we got more rare stuff like Banjo-Kazooie. And then it just kind of continued on until the system petered out in 2001, 2002. The last game that I remember buying for it new was either Perfect Dark or Paper Mario. It was one of those two, I don't quite remember. But I love the system. I still have it. I still have 2 of the controllers. I used to have 3. Still have all of my accessories. I have a rumble pack. I might have actually sold the rumble pack because I just don't use it. I'd rather have the controller pack in there. But we're gonna just quickly do just a little recap of my personal picks for the top 11 games on the system. It probably won't surprise you that most of them are Nintendo related, but I think you're going to be surprised by the top 2 because they're not Nintendo related, at least in America. So to start off, we've got 1080 Snowboarding. I didn't own this when it was a game that was fresh at the time. My friend Chris had it, so I borrowed his copy a fair amount. He had most of everything unlocked because he really got into it. So I got to goof around with all of the hidden characters and boards and stuff. I haven't got a chance to play my copy a whole lot, but I still feel like it's one of the best sports games ever made, and the N64 had quite a few of those. I really like the way that it feels. It's very impressive looking for its time. I remember feeling like this is very close to realistic way back in 2000 when that came out. I want to say that was 2000, maybe 99. Just like the snow still looks really good. It's just a really solid game all the way around. The soundtrack might be a bit much at times with voice samples. And those tricks are like pretzels, like a pretzel factory. And my fingers hurt just thinking about trying to pull off a 1080 in that game. But I think that was part of its charm, was really having to like commit to doing these tricks when you had the time to do them. So really like 1080 a lot. So it's number 11. Number 10 is Wave Race 64, which I think overall is the better of the two, even though it's 3 years older. It was really almost more of a technical showcase than Mario 64 was in some ways, because the ocean effects in that game are really impressive. Even like on looking at it through like the Wii or the Wii U Virtual Console, it's still impressive, and like the sequel just could not even do it. Like Blue Storm just failed to recapture that. But the soundtrack is great. Totaka did a wonderful job with that soundtrack, and it controls really well. And it's got great course design. It all just comes together. It's a little bit rough looking now, but it's definitely a gameplay achievement for the genre. Number 9 is Banjo-Kazooie. I really enjoyed Banjo-Kazooie back in the day, but there's something about Mario 64's simplicity that I like about that game more. Banjo certainly looks better. It certainly has a lot more features that Banjo and Kazooie can do together. It's a much bigger game. It also has a very good soundtrack. I don't think it's as good as Mario 64's, but it's very good. It's definitely among Grant Kirkhope's finest moments in the medium. And it controls really well. Honestly, the biggest downsides to Banjo-Kazooie is kind of its last few moments. The board game concept is cute, but it's really long. And it requires you to pay attention to like minutiae in ways that it's not a whole lot of fun sometimes when you get to those questions. And the final boss is really hard in contrast to the rest of the game. Gruntilda is really, really touchy, and like shooting eggs into the Ginjonator is really obnoxious because it's very precise. I also feel that Rusty Bucket Bay is also a bit of a unfun level in contrast to most, and Click Clock Wood is too big. But on the whole, Banjo-Kazooie is a wonderful game, and it's so awesome that they're in Smash. I was just thinking about that. How cool is that they finally got in? Number 8 is Body Harvest. There we go. Body Harvest is probably a bit of a surprise for anyone who is not super familiar with the third-party output of the N64, but the funny thing about Body Harvest is it was very close to being a first-party game. DMA Design started that game with Nintendo, but Nintendo wanted an RPG, and DMA really weren't skilled in that foray. So while they did attempt to do that, it ultimately did not pan out. Nintendo let them continue on with the game on their own, and it was picked up by Gremlin in the UK and Midway in the US. Ultimately, the game is a prototype of Grand Theft Auto 3, but I think it's a lot more fun. The alien premise is great. It's a really early example of an open world game, which is pretty cool. It's a bit aimless and it's not pretty to look at, but it's got a really compelling gameplay loop. It's got a really solid soundtrack that works really well for it, and it's fun to play. It's hard though. So I got through it with a Game Shark, and I don't have the Game Shark anymore, so I haven't really got into it in like the last 10 plus years or so. Number 7 is the port of Resident Evil 2. One of the biggest carts on the system. I want to say this was a 512 megabyte cart. Probably one of the definitive ways to play RE2 because there's stuff in this version that aren't available in the other ones that have come out since. There's additional files, there's to find that connect it to Code Veronica and to Nemesis. There's hidden cheat codes so you can have infinite ammo and invincibility. And it's just impressive. Angel Studios did remarkable, outstanding work putting 2 CDs of content into this cart. It's compressed, the textures aren't as sharp, and the voice work is a bit grainy, and the cutscenes have lost a lot of the quality, but it's all here with additional stuff, and it controls really well. The polygonal models look the best, in my opinion, out of all of the ports I've seen of this game. This is the way to play it, as far as I'm concerned, and it's my favorite of the old school REs prior to 4. Number 6 is GoldenEye 007. What a surprising game this turned out to be, honestly. No one expected this to be what it turned into. I don't even think Nintendo did. I think Nintendo got into this license with intentions of it being a Super Nintendo game and handed it off to Rare, and Rare was like, and then just took the idea of a rail shooter, removed the rails, and redefined the first-person shooter for consoles by giving it objectives. It's such a monumental game. It is, however, clunky to play now. It is not very attractive to look at now, but it really was an important game, and it was an important game for me personally because I spent a lot of time playing it. Just landmark game, definitely one of the greatest licensed games ever made, and it's because of how much Rare learned, like, under extreme pressure, that they were able to make the next game on my list, Perfect Dark. And Perfect Dark is GoldenEye on, like, another level. It's visually better looking. It's original IP, so there's no licensing shenanigans with it. They've upped the weapons, they upped the levels, they upped the multiplayer. Everything about this game is just elevated above what GoldenEye was able to do. The problem is that this game elevated so much that the N64 could barely handle it, even with the expansion pack. There's just so much goodness in this game. I feel that the last couple levels are weak. After the Carrington Institute invasion, it just kind of starts getting a little bit on the tedious side of things, in my opinion. Levels either get too big or too maze-like, or the Skeedar are less interesting antagonists than like Mr. Blonde and like Cassandra and all that. So ultimately it's not perfect, even though it's called Perfect Dark, but I think it is the best first-person shooter on the system, and I think it is Rare's best work on the system, and I love that game very, very much. Number 4 is Very Shiny of Time. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
this used to be my favorite game ever. The problem is that time has been a little less kind to it than I think some of the other N64 games that are ahead of it on my list. But in terms of revolutionary, I mean, very few can be as revolutionary as Ocarina of Time in terms of what it did for 3D action adventure games. So many games took what Nintendo did with this game and just innovated upon it. Nintendo themselves, to some success in Nintendo's case. I would say that they had a lot to learn about how to take things from here, but they certainly did experiment a lot, and eventually got to the Breath of the Wild, which is my 4th favorite game of all time, so I can't complain too much. But this is an incredible game. I spent so much time on it. I have a lovely article about my anticipation and thrill of playing Ocarina of Time, if you want to read that. 3rd place goes to Super Mario 64, which I did replay last year, and it is still a delight. Still wonderful game. Controls incredibly well, even though it has been surpassed by later 3D Mario games. For the time, it's like how good it feels. It doesn't look that great anymore, so that edge is gone. But I feel like the level design, the controls, the music, just the atmosphere, it all works for Super Mario 64. Still makes it one of the best games I've ever played. Still in my top 50. Love that game to pieces. And like I said, my replay last year just basically committed that yes, this game is still exceptionally good at what it does. Number two, we're almost there. As I said, we're into slight surprise town because Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time and GoldenEye. I mean, those are some of the heavy hitters. What could be left? Well, you're gonna not, unless you can read what these say over here. Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, is my 2nd favorite N64 game of all time. I adore this game so much, to the point that I bought Saturn imports of earlier Ogre games. This is such a good game. It is such a good game. I am thankful that it is still playable on somewhat modern consoles through the Wii U Virtual Console, because Square Enix is incredibly uninterested in doing anything with this series. And they need to stop doing that and re-engage with it because it's fantastic. This is an enormous game with multiple paths, multiple characters that you can recruit, a beautiful, beautiful visual style. This is one of the most beautiful N64 games. Has an incredible soundtrack. The gameplay is really engaging. I just love this game so much, and I just highly, highly, highly recommend it for tactical or strategy RPG fans. Pick it up on the Wii U. You're going to have a hard time finding it in this format at a good price, or import it, because you can get a box copy of Ogre Battle 64 from Japan if you know how to read the language or want to just FAQ it for really cheap. Alright, number 1. It's going to shock you. It's going to shock you unless you've actually read my top 111. It's International Superstar Soccer 98. Seriously though, like seriously, this is one of the best games ever made, and I love this game so much. I have probably put more hours into this on the N64, except for maybe Perfect Dark. I have played so many hours of this game, and I don't like sports games that much. This just controls like a dream. This is the best feeling sports game ever made. I cannot recommend this game enough. It's got customizable rosters, so all of my sew this webcomic and isolate dudes hang out together and play soccer. It's great. It's got just beautiful, beautiful controls. It feels so good to control this game. It's like there's no delay. It's perfectly responsive. It does what it wants, what you want it to do when you push the buttons. I don't get frustrated playing this game, and it's just got a nice, delightful, energetic soundtrack. For the N64, it looks good. I mean, it looks like soccer players. They don't have animated faces or anything like that, but they look human. Crowd gets you hype. The announcer is perfectly fine. He needs more voice clips, but what he recorded manages to not get old, even though he's saying the same thing over and over and over again. There's quite a few modes to play. It's multiplayer, so you can play with more than one person. It is the pinnacle of sports entertainment. There's no other sports game that has come close to matching this, except for International Superstar Soccer 64, which is a less sophisticated version of this. My number one N64 wish list item is ISS 2000, which looks a little bit better. It uses the expansion pack, and has a couple more features and stuff like that. But I adore this game so much. It sounds so strange because it's like, why would I pick this over Mario 64? And it's because I think that in terms of overall time and overall investment, I have just gotten so much joy out of this game. So that says a lot about how I feel about it. So there you go. That is my top 11 N64 games. Happy anniversary, Nintendo 64. I adore you. You're a wonderful system. I feel like you get a bad rap because your third-party support was not superb, but I pointed out at least 4 solid third-party games, and there's more out there that I just haven't played yet. I've got Harvest Moon 64 just sitting there waiting for me when I get something to play it on my HD TV. And there's quite a few that I still need to pick up that I haven't done yet, like the Goemon games or the Castlevania titles. There's a couple that I wouldn't mind picking back up that I used to have, but I just haven't got around to it yet. But it's a wonderful system, and I hope that Nintendo gets around to re-releasing it on the Switch somehow, beyond just Mario 64 on 3D All-Stars, because these games are great and deserve to be played. So, thank you for joining me for episode 26. Covered quite a bit of ground in this episode with what I've been doing this year, as well as celebrating a console milestone. So I want to say thank you for taking part in this video and hanging out with me. Next week, don't know what I'm doing yet, but we'll be doing something. So tune in. It should be interesting to see what I come up with. It always is a delight to record these. All right, friends. Take care. Till next time.